here we are, the week of Halloween, and Deion Sanders has Colorado in a bowl game.
6-2.
How about that? Now, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season, in November, Colorado becomes bowl eligible, okay. But I never expected it to be this soon. Now, the schedule for Colorado, we pointed out, once they got into conference play, there were a lot of toss-up games, right? But it's been more favorable to the Buffaloes. I mean, it is I commend Coach Prime, for what he's done. I'm surprised, and I was wrong. I thought the season was going off the rails with how things started, with him at the press conferences calling out the media, all this. And I guess more or less what it did is it took the distractions away from the players in the locker room, and it put it squarely on Coach Prime, and all the talk was about whatever he was saying and not about how his team was going to play or not play well, and what they would say or wouldn't say post-game. But now, I mean, bowl eligible. And I'm surprised that they're ranked as low as they are in the top 25 right now, with the buzz that they had last year.
They still got a shot at a Big 12 championship.
I know.
They got a shot at a college football playoff spot. I mean, they're squarely in the mix. It's down to really 4 teams in the Big 12 that have kind of separated themselves. The 2 unbeatens, BYU and Iowa State, Kansas State right there with 1 loss, and they had the win head-to-head over Colorado.
Yes.
And then Colorado with 2 total losses, 1 in conference. They have that road loss to Nebraska where I'm like you, Hutton. They look so bad in that game, and they look so bad on the sideline and in handling that game that I'm thinking this is, as I called it, it's a program built on sand, not with a firm foundation. But these players have responded very well since then, and their big-time players are playing like big-time players.
They are.
Now, I'm not trying to throw water and put out the fire or anything.
The wet blanket.
But it's still the question of how's he going to do when he's not coaching his kids, and one of his kids who happens to be maybe the best quarterback prospect in next year's draft, along with Travis Hunter, who that kid grew up playing for Deion Sanders, who's got 12 catches for 140 yards or whatever on Saturday, and he's a lockdown corner. How is the program going to continue to sustain when those guys aren't there? I don't know. I don't know if Deion Sanders is going to be around to see it or not, but I do know this. They've bounced back very well this year, and they're in a way better spot than I predicted.
And we said on the show, like a bowl game or bust, right? Bowl eligibility or bust. They clearly have busted through the expectations already. And I'll say, like, all the questions about how he's going to do when he's not coaching his family, if he's not coaching Shedeur or Shiloh, he's never had to not do that. He's always coached his sons. And aside from him loving the spotlight and everything, I do believe he loves coaching. I don't know necessarily if he loves being at Colorado, but I will also acknowledge, I mean, look at the standings right now in the Big 12. Why not Colorado? And if you have some programs that open up across maybe the SEC, Big 10, where else would he go among the programs that, I mean, let's also say Colorado would compete with right now if the jobs are going to open up in the SEC or the Big 10?
Well, let's give you some possible examples here, okay, of where he would go that we would say is a better job than Colorado. One of them is not going to be open in Arkansas. That's the one I threw out before the season. Sam Pittman is doing enough. He's doing pretty well. He's going to keep his job at Arkansas. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
I do too.
I think West Virginia could be open with Neil Brown. I think that's a better job than Colorado. How much better? If you like it in Colorado, I'd stay in Colorado. It's not that much better that you'd want to leave. Florida, Billy Napier has those guys continue to play hard. They could upset a Georgia. They could upset an LSU. They could beat someone else big down the stretch, and he could keep his job. It may still not be enough. They may move on. That's clearly a better job. The top guy you hear mentioned at Florida is Lane Kiffin. That's the name that I keep hearing. I'm going to give you another name that I heard over the weekend also from 2 different people that are pretty well tied in at Florida. Curt Cignetti at Indiana. To be one and done there and go to Florida. That would be a terrific hire based on his track record and what he's already done at Indiana.
It's the type of stability that they need too.
So those are, let's say it's Ole Miss that's open if Lane Kiffin leaves.
Yeah.
If it's Indiana that's open, I think you stay at Colorado instead of going to Indiana. Do you get into the SEC at Ole Miss? If you're Deion Sanders, maybe. Hutton, I just want to see what the motivation is when it's not his kids he's coaching. Are you in this for the long haul? Do you want to continue to try to build a program when it's not your sons? That's the question for me.
And he's said publicly before he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. But college football, with the way that the money has changed the landscape, it's more or less the same. However, he doesn't really preach that lane at Colorado. You know, he's always been about build your brand and then everything will come. Can you do that and get the same type of reach the same type of level that you expect that a program like Florida or Ole Miss or others would be putting on the table, right? The fan base. At Colorado right now, I mean, let's just mention expectations. Vanderbilt's in the same conversation. You know, the expectation at Vandy and what they're accomplishing this year or have already accomplished, and then compare it to Colorado, bowl eligible after 2 years ago being just awful. There's a sunglass tip of the cap to Coach Prime. Right now with the openings I could see, there will be some surprises, but I mean, Florida with the NIL issues that they've had, you know, with their collective, the lawsuit that's going on. Would you want to jump into that when you have, he's running the university at Colorado. And he's not really, Coach Prime with the Aflac ads and everything else he could bring the money with him too. But, Colorado can go in and beat Florida right now. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And you just bringing your same players over with you, I guess.
Well,
initially. Like he did before.
There's going to be surprises. There's going to be a surprise retirement. I remember when Chris Peterson retired at Washington. That was a big surprise. Saban, obviously, this past offseason. You knew it was going to happen soon, but didn't know it was going to happen right then and there. There's going to be some crazy things that happen with jobs opening that they're going to end up 9-3 or 10-2 or whatever, and everybody's going to say, Deion Sanders will be a prime, pun intended, candidate at one of these top jobs. So what's that surprise job going to be? Here's another one. Could Florida State come up with the $63 million to fire Mike Norvell and bring home their alum in Deion Sanders to come coach the school he played for and do it this time? I don't think so. I don't think they would do that. But Hutton, here's the difficult game now with Florida State. That buyout only goes down $9 million a year. So are you just going to, in perpetuity, continue to pay the guy? Let's say they go 2-10 this year and 4-8 next year. Are you going to say, well, now it's just, it went from, let's do the math, it went from 63 to 54, now it's 45. Well, that's still too much. Let's give them a third or fourth year after this. You can't let them just run the program into the ground forever. This is 4 out of 6 years, by the way. He's had a losing record.
I've talked with someone over the weekend, Chad, about Florida State specifically. And the issue isn't coming up with the money, because, again, they're trying to come up with a lot of things with the lawsuit with the ACC and everything they're trying to do to get out of the conference. It's not about coming up with the money for the buyout. Then you have to come up with the money for the new coach. And that's the issue at hand if they want to get rid of Norvell.
It's two-handed. And that's, you don't have you have a fistful of money, but you don't have enough money for both hands.
Yeah, you're going back to the same people.
To pay one coach and then to pay the new coach.
Yeah. Chad, I'm surprised at many things across, the mindset of the average athlete nowadays, right? I shouldn't be, because it's the new norm. But what we're seeing with the ability to disregard the popularity, the magnitude, and the significance of the quarterback position, and it's all about the individual, is I think it's reached a level where it needs to be addressed. Case in point is Anthony Richardson yesterday for the Indianapolis Colts. The face of the franchise, the anointed one, Jim Irsay, but more so Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen. Those two, especially Ballard, put everything on the line, their job. Because normally the GM doesn't get a second chance. Head coaches do. Put everything on the line to draft Anthony Richardson, who many believed was 2 years away from being starting quality in the NFL. That's what they were saying pre-draft. Dan Mullen didn't play him at Florida, which is a different argument. But they chose him number 4 overall. And he chose to tap out on a play yesterday to go to the bench because he was out of breath and exhausted while being on a run play chased down by a Houston Texans defender. And many thought at the time he was hurt, because he's tapping his helmet saying he needs a breather, but also, hey, get the backup in here. We'll go with Flacco. Flacco comes in for a snap. But post-game, Anthony Richardson had no problem admitting why he tapped his helmet.
Can you explain just you subbing out when you hurt and injured and tired?
Man, tired. I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there, what I did, and I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, just told Sam I just needed a break right there.
Man, I heard this, Chad. I'm thinking, no way did he say he needs a breather on a coming up a third down snap, where the head coach Shane Steichen sits at a podium or stands at a podium post game after his star quarterback said he wanted out for one play, and the head coach is even trying to portray an answer, a stance that he's okay with this. Listen to this.
Did Anthony get hurt when he came out for a play? No, he needed a breather. He ran 3 times in a row, and it was 3rd and long, and so we were going to hand the ball off.
10 for 31 or something like that. There's mitigating circumstances, surely, but where do you go from here with him? What is next? Can you get him on track?
Yeah, we keep working through the process. It's a process. We keep grinding through it. We do it together. It's a team game. We grind through those things, and we get it figured out.
That answer is almost more unacceptable to me than the actual tap out, because he's coddling his quarterback on a third down play where the head coach said, we're just going to hand off anyway. He ran 3 times in a row. We're going to hand off. So the exhausted quarterback couldn't stay in the game for one snap to just hand the football off? It's ridiculous. Any player who wants to tap out on this team should be, the team should be tapping out on the player is where I stand here. But it's not the new normal of the NFL, of college football, what have you, especially at the quarterback position. When you have been anointed as the face of the franchise or the program, you're coddled and your hand is held the entire way. I don't know in a locker room how I can follow that dude who is just told, I'm told he's the leader, but that's not what you do if you're a franchise quarterback. It's just not. And it's optics. It sends a message. It absolutely is about the significance of the position more than it is needing a breather. And Kirk Herbstreit hit the nail on the head in the preseason. Amazon Prime, he's on the broadcast. They had the Colts game. And Herbstreit was called out for having this, or asking this question with Al Michaels on Thursday Night Football's broadcast about having Flacco as the backup in Indy.
Let me ask you something here. If you're Shane Steichen, best case scenario, Anthony Richardson, he lives up to what we all hope he can do. Running, throwing, he's healthy. This team has a great year, and he's a superstar, right? What if he struggles? What if he has a good drive or a good game and then a bad game, a good game and a bad game? He's a pick. Everybody's kind of expecting him to be the guy. You got a guy like Joe Flacco with the roster they have. I just wonder how you handle that if it goes down that path, if you're Shane Steichen, because you know what you're going to get in Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's Evan Hall. I would think you can feel it inside the team at that point, too. Mm-hmm. What are the guys thinking? Do we make the change here? What do we do? Yeah.
Yeah, hey, 37.
I think you read the room.
Yeah.
Is what I would do.
Yeah. Again, we're all hoping to see him have a monster year and lead this team to great things. But that's the big thought. I think even if you're a Colts fan, you're hoping to see Anthony Richardson be this guy that can run this offense that Jalen Hurts ran 2 years ago in Philly, and he's running zone read and he's making plays. But if it's inconsistent, how long do you go until you start to maybe have that kind of discussion?
Well, it's almost like, what you do with any rookie quarterback. He's not a rookie, but in effect, he only played 4 games last year.
Yeah.
And he has very little experience.
The reality is the roster around the quarterback spot, this is a playoff team.
Second in the
So, props to both Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels here, because this is a prime moment in the season where this should be replayed. What if he struggles is something that Herbstreit had the question about. Up and down play. He was 10 of 32 passing, and he couldn't stay in the game to hand the football off because he was too winded. Inconsistent play, sure. Uncommon is how I would describe what we saw from Anthony Richardson. And read the room. Great point by Al Michaels, because this is where the rubber meets the road here. This is where you choose your path. Colts are on the road at Minnesota. The Vikings coming off 2 straight losses. And they're one of the top teams in the league. If Richardson doesn't lead, that locker room is going to point to the guy who comes in and throws multiple touchdown passes every time he starts, and it's Joe Flacco. And the problem with doing that is Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard are dead men walking, because they put their careers on the line drafting this guy that they have to develop and make and turn into the franchise, Chad.
Yeah, there's a lot of lack of accountability going on. We're going to get into 2 other stories, too, where I think it illustrates that. But this one specifically, this is not a defensive tackle who's at the tail end of a 17-play drive getting winded and his position coach seeing that he's winded and then getting a sub in for him. This is your quarterback who claims that he couldn't go anymore on a handoff play to get off the field on a 3rd and long because he ran on the previous 3 plays. I mean, I don't know where to go with that.
And he's a running quarterback.
He's a running quarterback. He's a young guy. I mean, he's not, 40-year-old Joe Flacco going on a big run 2 times in a row. He's not on his knees puking after running those 3 times. You're the quarterback. That is your team. That is your football game when you're on offense. I can't even – I don't know if it's a generational thing or a personality thing or a coddled thing of where they played growing up for the quarterback and where they end up in the NFL. I don't know what it is with a generation of guys at times, but I see this answer from Anthony Richardson, and I can't see Kenny the Snake Stabler giving that answer after scrambling 4 or 5 straight times. I don't think Fran Tarkenton would have gone to Bud Grant and said, Coach, I need a breather on this 3rd down because I ran the last 3 times. I've been scrambling too much today. That is a BS response. And it's a BS reaction from the head coach in the organization. Yes. And Hutton, I can't even blame or get mad at Anthony Richardson. When I hear Shane Steichen with that answer,
I know.
You're allowing it. This is your fault. I'm not going to blame Anthony Richardson's generation or how he was coddled as a player or any of that with that answer, because it's being enabled. So if the coach is going to allow that to continue and he's going to be okay with it, then I guess the rest of us should just shut up and accept it, because that's the lack of accountability that's fine in that organization.
And that's where you listen. You have to listen to the room. We'll find out from the locker room how they respond to this. Because not only the old school players, Chad, let's think about just the league right now. How many starting quarterbacks, great, good, bad, do that? I can't name another starter that would do that right now. And the Colts.
Hutton, it's so insulting to think that they would. I don't want to even speculate who would do it, because I'm insulting the person.
I know who wouldn't do it,
by saying they would do that.
Franchise quarterbacks wouldn't do it.
Patrick Mahomes wouldn't do it.
No, the franchise guy. Lamar Jackson. Anybody.
Lamar Jackson wouldn't do it. Tom Brady didn't do it. C.J. Stroud wouldn't do it.
No. Again, the franchise quarterbacks don't do that. And it's one play, but again, it's immediate. Like, get up, tap the hat, tap the helmet, I'm out. What if he is inconsistent? He's absolutely inconsistent. But what's consistent is the coaching element of They're tied to him. They have to make it work. And therefore, this is where it feels more like the NBA than the NFL to me. In this instance.
Another example, since we're talking NBA, NFL comparisons,
yes.
The end of the Commanders-Bears game, which everyone has seen now. Tyrique Stevenson for the Bears. Second-year corner, second-round pick. Good player. Idiotic moment. Inexcusable moment. Caught by fans' cameras, jawing with, I guess, fans or the sideline or someone, running around, facing away from the play, posing, mean-mugging, doing something for the sideline. The ball is in play. The ball has been snapped. There's a clear chance to get the ball to the end zone in a Hail Mary play. This is the moment that you as a defense have to be super locked in saying, guys, one more play. One more play. Play it fundamentally sound. Slam this thing into the ground if you get a hand on it. Don't tip it into the air. And the ball game is over. And instead, Tyrique Stevenson is jawing with the sideline, posing like an idiot, and then helps tip the ball up to the Washington Commanders. That led to one of the best moments, maybe in NFL history, on that Hail Mary. And the Commanders, what a story. Congrats to them. Great job. Tyrique Stevenson, your social media apology is not enough. It is never going to be enough. Stevenson post. To Chicago and teammates, my apologies for lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over until zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen. Hashtag bear down. Not enough. Good start. Not enough. They're not going to cut the guy. He's a good player. He's a contributor. He's a second-round pick. Teams aren't going to give up on a guy because of something like that. But here's what should happen. And DJ Moore has talked about it today. He said, we talked about it on the way back, and we as captains must address it in front of the team with him. That apology is not good enough. It's not good enough for DJ Moore. It's not good enough for the captaincy of the Chicago Bears. That's a good sign if you're a Bears fan. That's a good sign for the culture of that locker room. Here's what's not a good sign for Matt Eberflus, him doing nothing. He better do something. He better say something. There better be a suspension. There better be some sort of punishment. And at the very least, you put on the film session and you publicly humiliate that guy in front of the team and allow him to get up in front of the team after and say his apology. Because that type of nonsense cannot happen. And we can't be okay with that. Again, I'm not going as far as to say cut the guy immediately or anything like that. But just an online apology after that in that moment and your team goes on to lose, that's not enough for me. It's not enough for DJ Moore. It doesn't need to be enough for Matt Eberflus. If it is Hutton, the writing may already be on the wall for Matt Eberflus and a lack of control of that organization.
Stevenson addressed the team today where he said that he let them down. Eberflus, in his press conference, Monday press conference, said that discipline would be handled in-house and that he would be speaking with other coaches about that in regards to Stevenson. And the quote was, I let them down. I let the moment get too big and something that can never happen again, and it won't happen again, is what he said on Monday.
I let
Stevenson.
the moment get too big. I don't even know what that means.
Well, he's talking trash to fans. But the thing with, can we cycle through the photos again? The back is turned at the snap. This is what is just so awful to me. Because I've been on the side. Players are talking all types of trash to fans, and fans dish it out even more. But look at the snap. He's posing, and he's
receivers are headed his way.
Yes.
In this photo,
now,
he is facing away from the team.
Yes. Now he ends up being the one who tips the football
from the play, looking into the stands.
Yes.
And turns around, but he tips the ball in the worst spot.
Now.
Like, this is not how anybody teaches this. You go up and you knock it straight to the ground.
Yes.
You do not tip it in the air. There is a guy perfectly played for the Commanders, Noah Brown, right back there ready for the ball to be tipped in the air.
And
for the easy touchdown.
Kevin Byard, who's also in the backdrop of that tip, the ball tip at the previous photo, he is supposed to be more or less the center fielder with the player that's the deepest in the end zone, not in the crowd trying to knock the ball down.
He comes up and makes the wrong play.
Yes. And so, there's more aspects to that play that made it so memorable. But the the Stevenson response, and look, all these quotes, and you've got the social media post, and then you have the address to the team on Monday. What he didn't do is address the media after the game, clearly, because all we have is a social media post from the player.
Well, look, I'm just not buying it would be one thing if he said the moment was too big for me because I was out there, I was focused, but I froze. The moment was huge, and I screwed it up because I had a mental lapse because I was so nervous or so worked up in the moment. That's not a moment being too big for you. That's you showing your ass in that moment with the game not over yet. I don't know a human that responds to a moment being too big for them by turning away from the moment and talking trash to a group of fans. That's a weird explanation.
It's like showboating at the goal line.
The moment was too big for me. No, you acted a fool and you got caught. That's what it wasn't too big for you. Too big for you is the guy that's a 90% free throw shooter who bricks 2 with a chance to ice the game. That's the moment being too big. And that's, choking for lack of a better term. But if you want to say, hey, the moment got too big for me and I'm man enough to admit it, and that's what happened in the moment, okay, I can take that explanation. I'm not going to accept that explanation either. And I don't think the teammates should as well. Now, look, this could be the defining moment of Tyrique Stevenson's career, and we could always look back on this and remember him for it, or he could go on to bigger and better things. It's an inflection point of his career. This is what I know him for now.
Well,
and this is what a lot of people know him for.
This is also where he benefits from being in a defensive back meeting room with some really good vets compared to like Vegas, in that locker room.
Yeah.
With Byard and company there in Chicago, this will be handled better than it would at other organizations, just based on the group that they have. Now, you said you had examples, plural.
Yeah, here's one other example that I do want to get into quickly. The Titans, I think, are in the running for the worst team in football. I think Carolina's probably it. The Titans are right there neck and neck with them. They got blown out in Detroit yesterday. A big part of it, not the only part, every single side of the football had their hand in the blowout in Detroit, but a big part of it was special teams. And again, coverage on special teams. The Titans have had issues with punts getting blocked. Yesterday, they had something like 6 punts that netted, I think, 240-something return yards.
Yes.
Total on the 6 punts. That is Pop Warner level stuff. You don't see that from not just good college teams, from mid to below mid college teams wouldn't allow that. You certainly don't see it in the NFL, where every single kicking rule, I feel like, is designed to not give up a big return. Yet Colt Anderson, special teams coach for the Titans, has magically found a way to unlock the secret for every team they play to get big returns or to block punts or to do he needs to be fired. And I don't often call for someone's job, but if you're Brian Callahan and it's your team and you step into this situation and this is your hire and you don't fire him, buddy, you're next. Because that is a bad sign. Because everyone in that organization and everyone in the city of Nashville and every Titans fan can look around and say, this dude ain't it if he's not willing to make the necessary move. This ain't about being heartless or anything else. That guy does not need to have a job coaching special teams for the Titans. I don't want to hear about excuses of the 11 players got to make the play or this one guy screwed it up or we're so close to getting a tackle on a punt. I don't want to hear any of that. It's his responsibility. And he's had plenty of weeks to fix it. And he hasn't come close to fixing it. And when you're a head coach that shows that level of a lack of accountability, you're next. This is a bad sign for Brian Callahan. Because I read this as that is a locker room and a team that does not have accountability. Leaders that are supposed to be leaders are not leading on both sides of the ball. Brian Callahan's not holding anyone accountable. There's not paint being peeled off the locker room walls that I'm seeing. And the dude that doesn't do his job gets to continue to show up to work without any punishment.
They have allowed...
So how are you in control exactly?
They have the worst special teams unit in the NFL. They've allowed 142 more punt return yards than the 31st ranked New England Patriots in that same category. They have allowed 330 more yards than the NFL average in punt return yardage. Now, that counts a boatload of punt return yardage yesterday against Detroit. Detroit had more special teams yardage than they did NFL offensive yardage, total offense.
Statistically, they have the worst net punt rate yardage given up since at least 2018. And I was looking at this, and the story was trying to go back further. So it's not just the worst special teams. They're being bailed out by Nick Folk, an old kicker who's kicking pretty well when they need to kick field goals.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with the special teams coach. These things we're talking about has to do with the special teams coach. That's the least you can do if you're Brian Callahan, to show you're willing to make a change and you're serious about doing things the right way. It's not even about win-loss record anymore, to me. Hutton often says it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. That was a how you lost type of game.
Yep.
And if you're serious about we're going to set a standard and we're not going to play dumb and we're going to focus on our jobs and do it the right way, then Colt Anderson has to be collateral damage in that if you want to set a standard. And the fact that he's not right now, that's a bad sign for Brian Callahan as head coach of the Titans.
Well said. It was a bad look for James Franklin last week when he was pressed by reporters attending a post-practice media gathering leading into their game against Wisconsin about the reports that came out of the charges against some former Penn State players that have been, and they're facing rape charges. Here's what he did last week, where he didn't give any answers when the program refused to answer any questions.
Guys, how we doing?
Good. This is obviously a serious and sensitive subject. I know Greg read that, but we haven't heard anything from you on this.
John, we released a university statement. All right, do I need to read the statement again?
If you would like.
All right.
So the way he steps away, then he comes back up and says, hey guys, he does this twice during this presser. James Franklin acknowledged through an apology that he should have been better in this moment as the face of not just the program, but Penn State. He's representing the program and the university in this moment. And instead of backing away, he should have been not just the face, but the voice of the message.
I'd like to say is I want to apologize. I didn't do a great job of handling Wednesday. Difficult situation. And I got to own that I did not do a good job of that. So I understand you guys got a job to do. You got to ask those questions, and I respect that. The university put out a statement, and the reality is, I think there's not a whole lot more I can say other than that statement. It's an ongoing legal situation, and it's challenging. It's challenging on everybody. So at the end of the day, I did not do a good job of handling that situation and representing this program the right way. So I wanted to take a minute and apologize for that and understand you guys got a job to do. So I didn't do a good job there. I'm trying to get better like everybody else in a difficult situation. And I think that is a big reason for all of this, right? It's a difficult situation, a challenging situation. So I apologize.
Thank you.
I love how he handled that.
It's great.
I also hope that he will handle the next situation better, because they're going to continue to ask questions about this.
Yeah.
And now it's not going to be a headline because he's going to be much more, it's just, it feels more conversational if the coach is saying something instead of just reading from a sheet, Chad, and
right.
It's just like, here's our 2 lines statement. It's got to be better than what it was. And in this moment, at least Franklin is saying it will be better. I will be better at this, and I apologize.
I really liked the apology, and I felt like it was very genuine from James
I
Franklin.
agree.
And he owned it and said, I got to be better. Asked the players to get better. He's trying to get better himself. This all could have been handled if he just did that on Wednesday. I mean, I laid out.
Hey, sorry, guys, I can't do that.
We laid out on the show exactly what he should have said. That's what he said in that apology. It's a difficult situation.
Yes.
I can't comment on it because it's ongoing legal. I should have handled it better. The second thing I think about it is that was what you see from a coach who's wound tight the week of a game. And then what you got from James Franklin post-game was the level of relief of winning a game. When you're a coach and you only get 12 of them guaranteed. And then he had more clarity.
Yeah.
They win the game in Wisconsin. They win it pretty easily in the end. Okay, now, on Wednesday that was pretty bad. I'm more at ease right after a win. I can apologize for it, and we can move forward. Wednesday, I'm getting asked about things I don't want to talk about, so I'm going to be a little bit more of a jerk about it and step away from the mic because I'm in game week mode.
I also
right. James Franklin at that point is in. We got to get ready and prepare to beat Wisconsin.
Yeah.
On the road, I don't want to deal with that, which is understandable too. I like what he did on Saturday night. I got no issues with it at all.
See if you agree. It's just my take on it. I think he just listened to someone that said, "Hey, this was got to be better than this." I think he was able to process that advice.
Maybe he saw the clip from OutKick and he said, these
Maybe,
guys are right.
maybe.
They're making some good points.
So we said that we know Coach Franklin because he was coach here at Vandy in Nashville. That's the James Franklin I remember in most situations.
Yeah.
Right there. And that's why we knew it was handled so poorly. Like it was just, that was handled the proper way.
He's a good coach. He's a charismatic guy. He's easy to have a conversation with. He is very passionate about what he does. Absolutely. All of those adjectives apply to James Franklin. He's a smart guy. And smart people usually handle those situations better. That's why Wednesday surprised us a bit. Saturday night doesn't surprise me. That's more of the James Franklin we know. And that apology was a good one. Now, James Franklin, after that win on Saturday, he's got a big opportunity.
Yes.
Because Ohio State looks gettable.
They do.
That you can call it sleepwalking. You can call it a trap game, whatever you want with Nebraska. But I got a chance to watch a lot of that second half.
What I thought how Penn State would play in a trap
Nebraska
situation.
dominated the line of scrimmage, and they could not run the football at all against Nebraska. And Penn State has got the ability to do the same, to make them a pass-only team. And if you do that, and you got Will Howard playing quarterback, and you got Penn State's ability to rush the passer, Penn State's defense could make it very difficult on Ohio State in this game.
We compare these two coaches a lot, Lane Kiffin and James Franklin. The big moments, step up. When are they going to kick in the door? This is the opportunity for Penn State. We haven't seen Ole Miss do that.
It also could make Ohio State's chance to get to the playoff, crazy enough, difficult with a second loss and losing to Penn State. So not out of it by any means, but a lot more difficult.
Chad, we mentioned surprised by how he handled that, right? I'm not surprised that he's in the apology how he came across, James Franklin. I'm not surprised with NBC editing out the post-game interview of the MAGA hat drop-in from Nick Bosa. So in the post-game on-field interview, Nick Bosa crashes the party, so to speak, with Brock Purdy, and without saying anything, just steps behind him, and he's got the MAGA hat on. And NBC, on their X account, went back and edited this 2-second clip out. I'm not surprised that they did that because didn't we also see them do this with C.J. Stroud?
Oh, that's right. We asked him about that.
So we've seen this before. Here's where I'm surprised.
When he talks about his faith.
Yes.
C.J.
You
Stroud.
thank Jesus and God for his performance.
That's a good callback. I forgot it was the
They
NBC.
clipped that out whenever they posted it on social media. Now, let me also say that all companies, they all clip different things for social media. But here's where it's not consistent. I'm not surprised they edited out the MAGA hat. I mean, just where we are, is anyone surprised they did that? No. They shouldn't have. But they didn't do it on their YouTube account. They haven't edited it out on YouTube. So why do it on Twitter X?
They also did it, then deleted it, then did it again with the full interview.
Right.
Because they got heat for it. I mean, should we pat ourselves in the back at OutKick right now that they got him to take it down and then put the full interview up? If only 60 Minutes would do this with the full Kamala Harris interview, if enough people shamed them, they could show the interview in its entirety. Did the response to it cause NBC to change what they would normally do from an editing standpoint? It goes out live when most people are probably watching it, so that's not a big deal, but then they can edit however they deem appropriate. I will say the only reason to be upset about this is if you believe that if someone ran up and had a Kamala Harris hat on or yelled something about women's reproductive rights into the mic while they were interviewing a player, and then NBC was going to keep that in and not edit it out or go to a graphic in that moment.
For social.
Then that the hypocrisy of that is a little bit ridiculous. I'll also say there's a very thick level of hypocrisy going on with all of this because I thought we didn't want athletes to get political.
Right.
That's a big thing. Oh, when they got political, I was out on them. I wish LeBron would just stay apolitical. Guy's a hell of a basketball player, but when he got political, I was no longer a LeBron James fan. No, it's not because he got political. It's because he likes the politics you don't. That's what you don't like about it. So do we want politics out of sports? Well, if you want politics out of sports, then you edit out a MAGA hat. Just like you edit out a Kamala Harris hat or a women's reproductive rights, abortion rights, whatever hat. So I think the same goes for all of it, quite frankly. Now, if the argument is, well, they would do one and not the other, okay. I mean, I get that. I buy it a little bit. But the fact that NBC edited it and then took it down and then put it back up and it's just...
And then posted the full clip on YouTube and didn't edit anything.
It's a bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
Like they have the right to edit it how they want. I find some of the editing decisions very curious, and that's not just at NBC, but a lot of places I could say this about.
Yep.
But I'm not in the editing bay. I don't know what decisions are being made. I don't know if the head of NBC Universal is calling in and saying, get that MAGA hat off of our YouTube post or our social media post. I don't think it's getting to that level, people. I really don't. I don't. So we could probably chill on a little bit of that. It's someone just saying, let's go to a graphic. It may be what happened. And sometimes that's what happens in these decisions.